What's going on, y'all? You are tuned into the Hot List. I'm your host, Matt Johnson with Keller Realty. And in the Hot List, we talk about and answer real estate questions or concerns. I do this through answering a question of the day that is submitted by a listener of the podcast or even a past client. And oftentimes uh, I've answered questions that have come from family. And I do this in order to give back a little bit of my knowledge and my experience. Now, is this the end all beat all answer? Absolutely not. What I do is I answer the question that the person asks. I will then use it for future episodes just like this one and create a video to put out to people. So if they have questions about real estate, maybe a concern about something real estate related or their house, then they're able to find my question either through these videos or podcast episodes. And hopefully that gets them enough to not just scratch the surface, but then take a deeper dive in the direction that they need to. Now, these questions, I don't go into great detail with the answers because every situation could be a little bit different. So I will talk more about general topics, and from there hopefully that gives you the rabbit hole that you can go continue to go down, because if we went down a rabbit hole in each episode, these episodes would be way too long and y'all would tune out. So if you have a question that you want answered, um, either for yourself or for future episodes, all you have to do is shoot me a message on Facebook, or you can just drop it in the comments on the podcast player that you're listening to me on. I will not only answer that question for you, like I said, I will also turn that into a future episode for others, because the chance that somebody else has that question is extremely high. So please keep those questions coming. I can't do this without your questions, so I highly encourage you to get me those questions, and I look forward to answering for you. So today's question of the day is, do I need a utility sink? Well, that's a simple answer. Absolutely. Of course. Why not? I mean, that's the end of the episode. See you next time. But in having a utility sink, there are some other considerations that need to happen, need to go into it. And so it's not just a question of, do I need a utility sink, but more of a question of, why wouldn't I need one? What type? What style? You know, all of these questions can come into play and come into factor when you're looking at doing this. And having a utility sink when you need one is a pretty great convenience. Most of us use, kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, um, but there's no doubt that other locations would come in handy. Now, typically you see utility sinks in laundry rooms, basement, mud room, even garage. And this not only is that added convenience, this also keeps us from having to dump things down our kitchen sink or bathroom sink that we don't want down there. Like wastewater from cleaning, paint, dirt, mud, um, and whatever else could be in your lifestyle or hobby that you don't want in your kitchen sink, but you don't mind the utility sink. And installing a utility sink in your laundry room, basement, mudroom, whatever the case may be, this can be a great idea and a further convenience if you don't already have one. And depending on your home's layout, it could be more of a chore than what you might bargain for just thinking about this. So, to answer the question of the day, do I need a utility sink? We're going to talk about three considerations for a utility sink. And the first one, we're going to define what a utility sink is, because maybe people aren't familiar with the term utility sink. And my guess is you've seen one or heard of them before. Most of the time, utility sinks are some type of standalone deep basin sink, and these are typically found in areas like your laundry room and basement. For example, I've sold two houses over the past few months. Both of these had a utility sink in the basement. Both buyers were first time homeowners. They weren't really sure what the sink was, what it was for. So I explained to them because they're both utility sinks. One was, you know, just a smaller sink, is probably 28 to 30 inches. The other was about 44, 45 inches long, and it was a huge utility sink. And, you know, was you could put, you know, who knows what in there, but you could put larger items in there. The person that was selling it actually used it to put their bike in there, wash it off um, when they were riding during the wintertime, where they couldn't do it out in the summertime. And actually, some of the utility sinks have a hose attachment or threaded faucet. A standard hose can attach to this. This allows for filling buckets or other containers with water that you don't have to place in the sink. So you don't have to try to place the bucket in the sink, fill it, then lift it out. You can just set it on the ground with the hose attachment, fill it up, and move on. Now, generally, the purpose of a utility sink does have to do with some type of cleaning or cleaning. It is cleaning related. Like I mentioned, these are often used to wash off dirt, mud, paint, or other materials before you store them away, or maybe you place them before placing them into a washing machine. These can also be used to fill mop buckets or other containers, like I mentioned, for cleaning floors, maybe your vehicles. And most of the time, the utility sinks have large drains to make dumping containers easier once you're done and don't need it anymore. Just a note of caution: just because it's a utility sink doesn't mean you can dump whatever you want down it. You can't dump any chemicals or some type of waste down the drain. Uh, you know, Obviously, let's be responsible. Use your head. That's not what a utility sink is for. Number two consideration is the style of utility sink. Now, I mentioned that most of them that come to mind are the freestanding deep basin sinks. There are other styles available, and because the sink is typically going to stay in a fixed location, you want to make sure that whatever one you choose is something that's going to fit your needs and your lifestyle long term. There are three types or three different styles of utility sinks, and that is drop in, undermount, and wall mount, and floor standing. So the drop in style sink is this is the most common sink that people think about, not a utility sink, but the most common style of sink. These are the self-rimming or over mount sinks. So these are the ones that are typically in your kitchen or bathroom countertops, where there's a pre-cut hole in the countertop and a sink just fits over it and seals around it. These are pretty easy to install and work well with most countertops. The undermount sink is similar to what a lot of newer kitchen and bathroom sinks are going to, because these don't have a lip or rim around like the drop-in ones. These are installed completely from underneath the countertop, gives it more of a contemporary look. Plus, these are much easier to clean up because you can easily wipe everything directly in excuse me, directly into the sink, because there's no lip. So it's just flat, because it mounts from underneath. Just wipe it into the sink, and you're good to go. And the third one is the wall mounted floor standing, which is the most common utility sink style. This is the one that you see that's more standalone. This is actually the style that I have and I prefer, just because it can easily be changed, doesn't have to worry about the countertop or any type of integration. If something goes wrong with it, it can easily be pulled out and replaced with a new one. From there, you've got to consider what type of sink material are you wanting to do. And there are 5 common utility sink materials, which are cast iron, acrylic, porcelain, ceramic, and stainless steel. Now, I'll just briefly cover these. Again, this doesn't go really in depth. This just gives you a little bit of background of what each one is. So, cast iron is a traditional sink material, and it has an enamel coating, and it's more considered for heavy duty use, and allows the sink to withstand higher water temperatures as well as years of wear and tear. Now, with cast iron, there is some maintenance required because any exposed metal on the cast iron will rust over time. So it needs to be reglazed on a regular basis, keep everything sealed and prevent rust. Then there's acrylic. This is a lightweight and durable option, very resistant to scratches as well as stains. And like another material that I'm going to mention, this one is actually a louder material. When water hits it, it's going to be very loud. Also, with this, speaking from experience, it is not heat resistant. So be aware of that. You don't want to, say you want to clean the grates on your grill, and you just uh, heat it up to scrape some of what's on there, and then you take it to your basement and put it in your acrylic sink, and you come back and there's water everywhere because there's a hole in your sink. That may or may not have happened. I'm just saying that that's just, a example. Next on the list is porcelain. This is what most people think of because this is a classic material. It's got that nice shine, and it is pretty well timeless because it can be tied in and can go with so many things. Now, the advantage with porcelain, it is heat resistant, super easy to clean, and for that reason, has been an ideal choice for utility sinks for years. The 2 buyers that I mentioned over the last couple months that I showed that had utility sinks, the ones that were installed were actually porcelain, and as long as you take care of them, they're going to be good to go. Next on the list is ceramic. This material is fired at higher temperatures, which creates a non porous surface. So it's going to be extremely resistant to stains, easy to clean up, very durable, and it's got a nice, appealing look as well as a shine to it. And finally, the last one is going to be stainless steel. This is probably what most people think of when they think of a utility sink. It's one of the lightest weight materials. Just like the others, it's easy to clean. It has more of an industrial or traditional look. And like acrylic sinks, like I mentioned, it's going to be louder when water hits it compared to some others. So now that we've covered that, finally, we're getting to number 3 on the list, which is your installation. Installing a utility sink can be similar to a kitchen sink or bathroom sink depending on the style that you choose. Just keep in mind, not all houses are set up for water lines or set up with water lines for utility sinks. This means there could be some additional work required to run plumbing and install valves needed to hook up the sink. Some areas like your laundry room and basement may have water lines nearby, whereas if you go with a mudroom or garage, there could be some additional work required because you have to get the water lines to those locations. And then, of course, comes the drainage. What do you do about the drainage? Where does it go? Well, any water that's poured into the sink obviously needs to go somewhere, right? So you have to keep that in mind as well when it comes to placement, because the water needs to drain to the proper location. Obviously you can't just let it drain into a bucket, throw it in your yard or down another sink, because that defeats the whole purpose of having a utility sink. So once you've got the plumbing figured out, next is to secure the sink and connect the water lines as well as the drain. Again, depending on the style, some utility sinks are going to have a single faucet like what mine has. Others may have two faucets, or they may have a faucet with a hose attachment. There's a number of different varieties. No matter which one you choose or that you have, just ensure that you have a proper connection, not just with the basin, but make sure the basin is secured. And once you have all that, check for any leaks. Time to turn the water on. Make sure there's no leaks around any of the water lines that you just connected, just made. Make sure that it is functioning properly, and you're good to go. And of course, just like any other installation that we talk about on the show, uh, at some point you're going to be, if you DIY it, at some point your skill only goes so far for most of us. I'm no exception to that. So don't be afraid to call in a professional, and just depending on the scale of the job, maybe it's more than you're willing to tackle and get into. Not going to be as simple as you think. So maybe it's better to call in a professional. Just tell them what you want done. They'll give you estimate, tell you what they're thinking, and get you rolling and ready to go. So that's it. Those are the three considerations for a utility sink. So in order to answer, do I need a utility sink? Being somebody that has a utility sink, it is absolutely worth every penny, for not just the sink, but the installation as well. It has helped me so much, because we do painting from time to time with my hobbies and interests that I have. That gives me some place that is not the kitchen sink to clean some things off. That way it reduces my chances of getting in trouble and yelled at by my wife because I'm dirtying up the kitchen sink, or she doesn't want that in the kitchen sink. So if you are somebody that can utilize a utility sink depending on your hobbies, your lifestyle, maybe even your family, then I would say yes, absolutely. A utility sink is going to save you and be an added convenience for you. If you, again, based on family lifestyle, maybe it's not for you. Only you're going to be able to determine that. Plus, do you have the space for it? Do you have the capability of taking those water lines and connecting them? So that's it. That is going to wrap it up for me in the hot list today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share this out, get this in front of somebody that has mentioned a utility sink or talking about utility sinks. I've also included links in the description to previous episodes so that you can catch up on them, and make sure that as you subscribe, they're going to be downloaded to your podcast player of choice. Thank you guys once again. I'm your host, Matt Johnson with Keller Williams Realty. I do this because your experience matters and should be trusted with a veteran. Y'all have a phenomenal Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.